Good morning. Wow, what a great turnout. All my job here is to kick it off and be a timekeeper. But let me tell you kind of what's going to happen. We have 3 speakers who are each going to have a PowerPoint. They're going to come up one by one. Then we're going to bring our panelists up and have folks sit in the front and interact with one another, and then a little bit of Q&A, I'm hoping, right? So I'm just going to remind our speakers, let's keep it brief and witty, and then we can make sure we get a lot of interaction from the audience, because look at this wonderful audience that we have here. Thank you all for coming out. And then before I step aside and bring Chris Chappell up, have we given Vina Howard a round of applause yet? She's done a great job putting this all together. Okay, so our first speaker is Dr. Chris Chappell from Loyola Marymount. Come forward, please. We're gonna, you know what you're doing. Okay.
Stita. Everybody say stita. Prajna. Stita. Prajna. Stita. Prajna. Stita means stand. Stita means to be steady. Prajna means to have a knowledge that goes outward, to have a wisdom to be shared that must be shared with others. What can we do? We live now at a time, right now, of critical urgency. My older sister, a leading primatologist, a colleague of our late, wonderful Diane Fossey, but most notably, help me, Maureen, Jane Goodall, had to lay off 1,000 workers with the cancellation of USAID. Those workers each supporting an extended family of 10 people in Madagascar, the poorest country in the world. 1,000, maybe 1,200 calories available every day, while we're luxuriating with our 2,000 plus, while we're coping with the problems of obesity. 1,000 people without livelihood. Santa Monica, California. Our pastor, she donned her best clerical garb, which she usually eschews, went to the jail and requested to see a member of the extended community involved with helping people who are afraid of ICE. This woman, now in jail, was confronted by ICE officers, and she was near a Home Depot so that she could quickly get to the folks that were in threat of being gathered up. They beat her. They threw her in jail. And being here in Fresno, I don't have any updates, but this is happening to us right now. Our freedoms are under threat. Stita prajna. Everybody? Stita prajna. To meditate is an act of resistance. Mahavira, 2,500 years ago, would sit and meditate. And people would come up to him and they cut his skin. They tore at his hair. They doused him in dust, trying to rouse him and trying to ridicule him for manifesting stita prajna. I had the good fortune some years ago of welcoming to the campus of Loyola Marymount University Narayan Desai. He was, by that time, in his 90s, some of the largest hearing aids I've ever seen. And he shared with us his Gandhi Katha. And while imprisoned in the Aga Khan Palace in Pune, India, Gandhi's wife passed away. Narayanan Desai's father, Gandhi's personal secretary, passed away. And Narayanan, as a very young man, had to rise up and fill his father's shoes. And as he spoke with us in a gathering very similar to this place and this time, as he spoke to us, he shared important information. He shared that, everybody knows that Gandhi in the Gita, we've heard again and again, but he shared specifically, read every day the last 18 verses of chapter 2. Now, in my yoga training in ashram back in the 1970s, my wife and I could not be here without her, as you just saw. My wife and I were required to memorize in English the entire, it's a long chapter, 72 verses, the entire chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, recite it in unison. And I want to share just 3 or 4 of those verses from that very powerful chapter that Narayanan Desai said gave Gandhi the energy to do what needed to be done. And leading up to those last 18 verses, Krishna gives a wonderful definition of yoga. Fixed in yoga, having renounced attachments, do action. Be the same in success or failure. This sameness, this samatha, is called yoga. When a person leaves behind all desires that arise in the mind, in modern times, it's not even our own desires. We have to just set the phone aside, okay? Leave behind all desires that arise in the mind on the screen. Be content with self, within the self. Swaraj, get control of yourself. That one is said to be stita prajna, steady in wisdom. The person who is not agitated by suffering, dukkha, whose yearnings for pleasures have evaporated, whose passion, fear, and anger have evaporated, that sage has stita prajna, steady in wisdom, steady in vision. One whose passions have been quelled on all sides, whether encountering anything, whether pleasant or unpleasant, who neither rejoices nor recoils. Such a person is established in wisdom. I was very humbled some years ago as I was invited to speak about Gandhi at the University of Southern California. Humbled because following my nice academic setup, Ralph Fertig entered the stage. I commend this book. It's a wild ride, a passion for justice, one man's dedication to civil rights. His parents were Holocaust survivors. He became an activist in Chicago. He eventually became both a lawyer and a professor of social welfare, but he almost did not make it. And in 1961, as a freedom rider, he boarded the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. He boarded the bus during the height of segregation, and this organized group of young people and elders shuffled the array of people within this bus, and a woman complained. Accused him of assault, although he never really came in her proximity. And marshals entered the bus, pulled him off, put him in jail in Selma. And if you've not seen the movie, go see the movie. And he asked, with all of your experience, asked the jailer, do you know a lawyer that might be able to help me? And he said, sorry, Alabama is a civil rights desert. And he said to himself, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. He sang to himself those organizing songs, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. He was terrified in that jail. He said, I masked the terror from myself. Maybe it was some form of shell shock, self-denial. But I rationalized a sense of historical inevitability and morality of purpose, convinced that this imprisonment was the best legacy I could leave to my 3 infant children. Enveloped in silent darkness, I stretched out on that stone bench in my solitary cell, this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. I reflected on the journey that had brought me here to Selma. I tossed and turned, disavowing all feelings with a protective numbness, trying to hold to that sthita prajna that had been taught by Gandhi to Howard Thurman, that had been taught by Vinoba Bhave to James Lawson. That same sthita prajna, Narayanan Desai from the Gita said, this is the anchor of nonviolence. Okay, I'm going to take 3 more. I was out of my skin, resigned to die here for the statement of a humanitarian purpose. And then what happened? The jailers let in 5 self-identified members of the Ku Klux Klan. And as the jailer left, he said, have at it. You can take care of him, boys. But the FBI's been asking about him, so don't leave no marks. 2 prisoners took over the assault that had been started by the 5 outsiders that were members of the Ku Klux Klan, beating me with open hands across my face, head, back, chest, stomach. One of them said, I was in the service for 9 years, where I got showed how to whack troublemakers without leaving no marks for the FBI. The deputy sheriff a while later appeared and said, it's okay, boys, you don't need to worry about not leaving no marks no more. We've got a necktie party out here for him. In other words, he had permission from the officials of Selma, go ahead. And if you don't leave here feet first, he ain't leaving this town no other way. What did the jailer give permission to the prisoners to do? Kill him. And then the janitor came in, and the janitor's job was to mop the floor. And the janitor was black. And while that janitor was there, mopping very slowly, the beating ceased. And again, he went into the refrain of the freedom songs. And he said, we're fighting for our freedom. He sang to himself, Stidaprajna, we shall not be moved. Oh, freedom, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I would die in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. The pounding continued after the janitor left. And then finally, dazed, someone comes in. Your lawyers are here for you. And 3 black men came in with suits. And quietly, but with palpable contempt, the deputy sheriff put me in the hands of these 3 earnest black lawyers. And then Ralph Fertig blurted out, no longer able to control the tears that had been trapped deep inside. How do you keep from hating white folks? And he was taken to the home of Ralph Abernathy, and a black physician came in, determined that every single rib in his body was broken. And after a week and a half at the home of Ralph Abernathy and his wife, finally he was taken to the hospital, recuperated after a great deal of agony. And here's the really important good news. Now, you all know what happened with Jimmy Kimmel, right? Militant, nonviolence and press coverage. Like, he never fought back. He never fought back. They were trained by Gandhian innovators to not fight back. The press coverage really worked. The whole world saw the photographs of Ralph Fertig. It attracted the media, which brought scenes of violence perpetrated by Southern constabularies into the living rooms of the nation. And Americans beyond the South rose up in indignation. In the fall of 1961, Robert Kennedy convinced the Interstate Commerce Commission to issue regulations compelling the removal of Jim Crow signs and practices in bus terminals, and all common carriers engaged in interstate travel were desegregated. Now, what can we do? We can continue to stand up, to demonstrate. Cesar Chavez, my very first demonstration, age 13. I was age 13. Cesar Chavez came to Rochester, New York. It was a boycott time for grapes and for certain types of lettuce. What can we do? We can stand up, we can speak up, we can boycott, we can organize, and we can vote for the greater good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. It's really good. Yeah. Let's see. We're going to HDMI. Yes. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. Voila. Chris Chappell, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Nikki Guninder Kaur Singh, who will have a PowerPoint, I believe. Nikki, can you come up and share us with your wisdom? Hi.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Welcome. Yes.
Thank you very much. It's very hard to go after Chris, such an inspirational speaker. What do I say? I'm speechless. Anyway, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you all for being here. I come from Maine, and I have no words to thank Veena for her stellar organization. Say it again? Everything okay? Oh.
Veena was saying we want to make sure we have plenty of time for
Yes, so I'll take 10 minutes. Chris took 20, I'll take half of that. How about that? Or I'll try, you know. Anyway, it's really wonderful. Thank you, Veena, very much to the University of Fresno. It's wonderful to be on your campus and to receive all your terrific hospitality. Thank you to the Oberoi sisters. Thank you to the students. And I'm really grateful to be in Fresno because this town means, or city means a lot to me. A few years ago, I was here, and after a talk, there was a proclamation given by the mayor of Fresno, and March 26th was proclaimed Nikki Singh Day. So I'm in my town, this is my town, and I welcome you all. Thank you. And I'm very grateful my Pabi is here, and anyway, the Sikh community honored me. And I'm very, very happy to be here, and what I want to contribute is how can we build peace through art? That's what I want to propose. Somehow or the other, in our DNA as humans, is that religion is here, ethic comes there, and then at the bottom rung is aesthetics. And I don't know if I quite agree with it, because if we did not feel, if we didn't have our senses, if we did not have empathy, love, how can we love, know God, do good in this world? So my starting point is aesthetics. I just finished a book on Guru Nanak's transcendent aesthetics. My world is the Sikh world, and that is historically, geographically, culturally, linguistically, comes in between the Hindu and Islamic traditions. So that's where I come from, and this is what we are doing, celebrating Gandhiji's birthday, and my heartfelt thanks to everybody, art as a conduit for peace. I have put here two of my favorite, speakers, theoreticians, Tolstoy, and how Tolstoy says art is for community building. Tolstoy considered artists as somebody infected. Like we have some disease, you're infected, and then you pass it on to others. So that's how you create a community. So Tolstoy, art is bonding. For Kandinsky, art, in fact, is the raising of the spiritual triangle. And we can go on and on. Rabindranath Tagore, art is that important dimension that comes from the surplus of human beings. It's something very extraordinary. That's where it comes from. So these are the people who have impacted me over the years. And so the goal of art. So what I want to say is art is not for art's sake. Not just that, art has a very important role, a very important function, and here I take 4 different aspects of it from Master Confucius. And this comes from his categories from his book of songs to evoke emotions, etc. But really, art is transgressive. It is transformative. We have to do something about it. Issues of social injustice, human suffering, it kind of makes us reflect on where we are. It's just not kind of taken for granted. We're not oblivious to where we are. What is our present, just as Chris made us aware, what is going on in the world today. And art kind of promotes that. So this is what I want to emphasize, and I want to show how this is practiced in the Sikh world. So this is Guru Nanak. He's the founder of the Sikh tradition. As I said, it comes in between Islamic and Hindu traditions, so it's in that broader Dharma context. And he's born 1469 to 1539, just to give you dates, and it goes on. So here he is, this is Guru Nanak, and they say that he went to Baghdad. There are lots of stories about it, and he's given a robe. So he's wearing a robe with citations from the Holy Quran and from the Guru Granth, his own text, from the Japji. So in a way, kind of modeling, it's on his body, this robe that he's wearing. And these traditions, which were actually quite contradictory and very opposing, very antagonistic in those times, he's bringing them up on his own body. So this is Guru Nanak, and his basic pronouncement is, there is one being. Ik, literally numeral one. So it's not a monotheistic conception because there is one God. That is not quite it, because this is one within you, within me, in the planet, just as we heard yesterday about the whole planet, the cosmos. Everything belongs to that one, and that one is that light within you and me. So it's kind of one within all of us. This is the basic fundamental principle of the Sikh tradition, and it is followed through by his successor gurus. There were 10 of them, and these are the verses of the 10th guru. But I just want to remind you, because it's very close to this Guru Gobind Singh's father's martyrdom day. And the 9th guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur, he was executed in Delhi. And that was not for his own religion, not for standing up for Sikhism, but for the Hindu religion. Because it was under the Mughal Empire at that moment. Akbar was very open, very pluralistic, but his great-great-grandson, Aurangzeb, was a bit of a fanatic, and he wanted to purge India, make everything Islamic. And some Hindu Brahmins from Kashmir came to the 9th guru, and they said, this is what's happening. Our fundamental principles are being erased. And so Guru Tegh Bahadur stood for them, and he died. So this is something where you don't just do it for yourself, but you promote others. So he did not see the difference, and he's really putting the founder guru's principle of oneness in practice. These are verses by the 10th guru, Guru Gobind Singh. And again, you see that he's asking, recognize, it's almost like imperatives. Recognize humanity is the only caste. Manas ki jaat sabbe eke pehchan bo. Again, ek hi saroop sabbe eke jyot janbo. Know that we are all the same body, the same light. So he's making it a requisite. So it's just not to know at some cerebral level, at some doctrinal level, but to actually experience it and to really recognize. I love that word, recognize. And then he goes on, there are masjid, soi, puja, temple and mosque are the same, puja and namaz are the same, and all human beings are the same. Eke nan, eke kaan, eke deh, eke ban. We have the same eyes, the same ears, the same body, the same voice. We are all made of a mixture of earth, air, water, and fire. Those are the basic elements that we share with the larger planet. That's who we are, and we are all the same. And all the distinctions, anek ke pramau hai, these are all delusions. So this is not reality. So the differences that we see, distinctions that we see, are all our own mental, deep down illusions. And what I hear, which I read, and this is by Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, who wrote the Principal Upanishads, and there he says in his footnote that Gandhiji took his prayer, that we heard such a beautiful prayer yesterday. Remember the little ones reciting it? Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram. That came from Guru Gobind Singh, that is where Mahatma Gandhi says, Ishwar Allah tere naam, mandir masjid tere dham, sabko sammati de Bhagwan. That it was Guru Gobind Singh's, the verses that I read to you earlier, from his Akal Ustad, that's where Mahatma Gandhi was inspired. So this is Radhakrishnan saying, I'm not saying it. And Mahatma Gandhi also says it, as I quoted from his text. Okay, so this, this is Sikh scripture. The Sikhs do not, this is kind of the center, what goes on in a Sikh sacred space. The center is, if you can see, this is the text. This is the soul, everything of for the Sikhs, the be-all, alpha and omega of Sikh life. And the opening verse of that is one being only, Ik Onkar, that we talked about. And 1,430 portfolio pages are but a hermeneutics of it, recitation of it. Now this text, which is the most sacred entity for the Sikhs, how does somebody get married? They walk around the book 4 times, you bow in front of it. It is the be all of Sikh life center. It's the philosophical, ethical, aesthetic guru of the Sikhs. And this text has Sikh, Hindu, and Muslim authors, and they're all given equal respect. So it is pluralism, and that's what was emphasized by Nanak, and it is put in practice by his followers, and it is encapsulated in Sikh scripture. And as you can see, what is the basic ritual of the Sikhs? To recite the verses. And so that is recited, Kirtan is going on, and these are all, the text itself has Sanskrit, Arabic, Persian, and local languages, the vernacular languages. So it's not the elite languages. So it was for everybody, for the masses. So taking this kind of a religion up there, doctrinal religion up there, and making it into an aesthetic experience that could be shared by everybody. So music too. You know, the whole text, most of it, except a bit in the beginning and the bit at the end, is put into musical measures. These are 31 ragas, and they come from all over, you know, all over the Indian peninsula, from the Sufis, from the Hindu bhakti, some popular tunes, local tunes. So it's a very versatile text, versatile in its style, in its genres, many different poetic forms, in its vocabulary, in its languages, in its values. There is Islam. Baba Farid is there, who's speaking about, you know, the last day of judgment and so forth. There is Namdev talking about Krishna and the Hindu gods and so forth. There was, all are a part of that. All are a part of that one. So it's really putting that, and this for the Sikhs is everything. We bow in front of it. So I just want to say that this pluralism and that aesthetic aspect of it, the singing, recitation, is critical. So this is from the inside of the Golden Temple in Amritsar. Okay, 5. Let's go quickly. So I just want to show some of the artworks. And these are so as I said, you know, art is the way. This is the Singh twins. They live in England, and they're 2 sisters. And I just want to show you that they did their father's journey. But on the top, you see the very grave tragedy of 1919, when in the compound of the Golden Temple, which I showed you, the inside, outside of, the General Dyer went and ordered his troops to kill people who were just, you know, with cannons, people who were just, had gotten together. It was springtime, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, everybody's kind of coming together. And there was this order not to gather together in public, so forth, and he just started shooting them. And Mahatma Gandhi is visiting, and this is a close-up of the one that you see there, and seeing the spilt blood, and he was crying. And what it shows is, you know, whose blood? Blood is blood. Is it Hindu blood? Is it Muslim blood? Is it Sikh blood? And so that horrible tragedy, Mahatma Gandhi visits, and these Sikh twins, they put it there. This is 1947. India got independent, but it was partitioned, and that was a very tragic moment in Indian history. So Pakistan is created, and so this is a very eminent poet who I'm very, very fond of, Amrita Pritam. She wrote this poem, and as you can see, this is a work of art. This is the Radcliffe line, which kind of bifurcates the 2 Punjabs, Indian Punjab, only because Pakistan was created because it was Muslim, and all the Hindus and Sikhs had to come from this side, and all the Muslims who were, that's the first country to have been created on the basis of religion. And so that's what happened. And so this is a poem that she wrote, and the artist, it's a contemporary artist, what he did was showing that border, that insane border created by Radcliffe, who was a lawyer who had come from England, and he was staying with Mountbatten, did not know anything about the geography, the cartography of that area, given old consensus and old records and so forth. But anyway, higgledy-piggledy, and it went through people's temples and mosques and so forth, a very, very tragic moment. And so at that moment, Amrita Pritam writes a poem, which is very important in the Sikh world, in the Punjabi world, because, and it was like, I call upon Waris Shah, who was a Muslim poet, to come up because he spoke of love, and that's what we need at this time of hostility and so forth. We need love, and that's the poem where she's evoking Muslim poet to speak about love. And this is another artist, I'm very fond of her too, showing again the haphazardness of what we do when we create borders, which is, how do you split the celestial world, the skies? And again, you see the deer, it says stop, and the deer is kind of trying to do, where do you stop nature? How do you create barriers? These artificial cartographical divisions do not work. And what we need is kind of a continuum. These artists and poets, my favorite again, a Muslim Pakistani woman writing this poem and kind of resurrecting that old story from the Ramayana where Sita is kind of boundaried, and she's what she Lakshman rekha ta tere mere andar hai. These kind of boundaries are within you and me. It's inside us, human greed and so forth, wanting territory, and then we create these politicians and so forth, creating these artificial things. So anyway, it's a really beautiful poem, and we don't have time, but we can do it later. And this is Gandhi. This is Arpana Kaur. She's, again, a very wonderful, beautiful person, lives in Delhi, and she does a lot of work of art, creates beautiful works of art. And here she's creating Bhagat Singh and Mahatma Gandhi, who had very different approaches. And yet she puts them together, because they wanted, their aspirations were the same. And so you see them, and anyway, and the other side are the two trains coming from one side and going to the other, and you can see the tears and so forth. And I will just, these are Arpana Kaur's words, that's why I didn't want to say anything. And she said, in the background, I have once again used the motif for lions, which both Uddam Singh, whom I painted, and then this painting, Gray, also had weeping birds. So. And this is my last slide. And we are coming back to Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh tradition. This is done by M.F. Hussain, a very eminent artist of India, 20th century. Very sadly, something or the other happened, and he was kicked out of his country. He was very open to Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and yet when we become when we create these divisions, divisive kind of categories in our minds, he had to be expelled from his own country. This is a work of art that he did. One of my friends, Kanuja, that family owns this work of art, and I love, because you see that Ikonkar right here, that Guru Nanak says, and this is his words, and then you can see the rosary. And whose rosary is it? Is it Sikh? Is it Buddhist? Is it Hindu? Is it Sufi? Muslim? Christian? So all these emblems, these symbols, these kind of belong to us. So what I'm trying to say is that in today's world, when there's so much pain and division and we're dangerously divided and polarized, we need something that brings us together. Art, music, literature, they belong to us. Religion, your religion, my religion, his religion, her religion. So I think there's something about art, and we need to give it more importance and kind of participate in it. Thank you if I took time.
Thank you very much. Before we bring Michael Etse up, let me just remind you that the next phase will bring our panelists up. So they're going to have a task to respond, and we'll have our panelists interact with one another. And we want to encourage questions from the audience. So start formulating your questions. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Michael Etse from Fresno State, one of our own.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, my students, our students. It's good to have you here. Provost Vu, it's good to have you. Veena, Andrew, Raja, and other colleagues and co-panelists. Thank you. So what I'm going to do here is a kind of, I'm a historian of idea and a philosopher. So it's going to be a kind of a contemplative exercise. I tried not to be too academic, although somewhat academic. And in full disclosure, my ideas are informed by my training as an African philosopher, history of ideas, and a little bit of Ignatian spirituality. And so these are the things that percolate to say that in a Kinyarwandan proverb, Kinyarwandan saying goes that knowledge is the only thing that grows when it is shared. And so it's supposed to be there to light other candles. My students are already familiar with this phrase. So today we're talking about forgiveness as human reconciliation. So I'm going to do a few things here. Talk about Ubuntu philosophy from African perspective. I'll try to explore in practical terms, and then I'm going to see if there are ways we can compare Dharma and Ubuntu philosophy, but also in ways in which Ubuntu transcends Dharma and then look into the future. All right. So I think I'm going to start from here. So when we talk about Ubuntu philosophy, when with the famous phrase, I am because you are, and since you are, therefore I am, which actually is a kind of footnote to the closer Zulu aphorism, when we say, Umuntu ngumuntu gabantu, moto kebato kebato. In closer, it means a person is a person through other people. A human being is a human being through other people. I changed this phrase. Normally, what we see in academic literature is I am because we are. Since we are, therefore I am. In my work, I changed this phrase to be I am because you are, to avoid the idea that sometimes we recognize only those who look like us, think like us, feel like us. So now in African cosmology, when you say I am because you are, it's not just recognizing human beings or those who look like me, but even human beings, animals, enemies, those who do not like. So it means that even my enemy, even plants, but also the cosmology, the living dead, plants, trees, mountains, they all constitute part of my humanity. And this is why you see some parts of Africa, forests, trees, rivers have the same subjective right as a human being, so that your humanity does not transcend. You do not own the land, you do not own the forest, you do not own the mountain, because they constitute part of your humanity. And so the idea of human rights doesn't come into question. Instead of human rights, we speak about subjective equality as opposed to human rights. And so let me move forward here. Talk about the idea that I am because you are. What does Ubuntu teaches us? That humanity is not something that you own. In Bantu philosophy, say that, of course, it is metaphysical. Our identities, our dignity, our personhood are out of this constituted intersubjective relationship, which means that you are part of my humanity. And when I harm another person or violate another person, it's also a moral violation of myself. This is not simply a proverb when I say I am because you are. It's the ontology tells us that humanity is never quite a private property. You know, the idea that I say you are part of my humanity, you see that coming out in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission when it comes in practice. When we talk about collective healing and moral recognition and the order is part of me. And Desmond Tutu once famously said, we are all victims of apartheid in the TRC. What does he mean by that? The idea is that, that the moment you transcend, you leave the realm of humanity to treat other people in a very despicable way, that moment you have also self-violated. To put someone in a gutter, you have to be down there in a gutter yourself. That is to say that when you violate others, you do not transcend that auto-violation. Ubuntu does not give up on anyone. This is where it becomes very interesting in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. One mother said, if this man becomes human, then I too become fully human again. It wasn't cheap. It was costly but liberating for all. It's not to cut away from them, but idea is to bring all of us together into one. We are all victims of apartheid. But the most important thing for me here, I want to talk about, I'm trying to be as fast as possible here, the idea of Ubuntu as radical freedom. Forgiveness holds us kind of hostage to the past. What does it mean here? Is to refuse captivity to anger. How do I understand it? When I say XY Professor Fiala, you are XYZ, say something that makes you angry. What does that say? You get angry, right? That's what philosophy say. And then the idea I use in my book is what I call colonization of subjectivity. I am actually reinventing you, being invented at the gaze of the other. So when people like P.W. Botha in South Africa, when Mandela offered forgiveness, they say, well, I don't recognize your forgiveness. But he says, no, in Ubuntu philosophy, to hold to anger, refusing to forgive, is to continue to be invented at the gaze of the other. There's a reason why I did X, Y, Z to make you angry in the first place. Why? And so when you remain that anger keeps in you, it suggests that you are still my product. More like I'm controlling you with a remote control. Yes, he's angry. Even if you say, I said something terrible, maybe you come back, I become what I call a residual subject. You're still my footnote. Even if you fight back and defeat me, you are still invented at the gaze of the other. You are still a product of the other. You're not free. So it becomes that kind of entanglement. But Ubuntu says freedom. And so it takes me to the idea of remembering. Please pay attention to that term, remembering. It's not remembering. There are two terms here. Remembering. It's not to remember. So here, forgiveness acts as remembering. There's hyphen, remembering. Stitching together what has been torn. Forgiveness is not forgetfulness, but remembership. Membership. This is key. It's not remembering knowledge about what happened in the past. That is key. It's not remembering about what happened but to remember means bring a membership, bring you back into the membership of the community. It's not about the knowledge, but you become a new member. So whatever happened in the past, whether you violated or whatever, whoever you are, you become new members. So it's not about remembering, but membership. To those who have been excluded, violated, we become new members of the community again. That is what forgiveness teaches. The violator, the victim, the oppressed, all of us become membership. So it's a new membership here. To remember that is become a member of the community again. Remembering is remembership. That reasons that restore the individual and make them members of the community again. Despite the past. And so, it's not about erasing the past or pretend it never happens, but the kind of shared transformation through membership that the future belongs to all of us. That's the idea of restoring this idea of a community. And that even if I don't like you, we violated whatever, your dignity is not subject to, my students, is not subject to what? Negotiation. Remember, talk about this in our philosophy. Your human dignity, even if you were a violator, your dignity is not up for negotiation. It's not something we have to contest. Let's talk about how does it fit. I try, I'm not an expert on Dharma, okay? But I try as a scholar, philosopher of idea, to speak about in what ways, in my little understanding, I'm open to criticism. As I said, my students will recognize this, that every idea possesses what I call ontological mobility, the idea that every idea is subject to change, that we do not have perfect knowledge. And I'm going to talk about imperfectibility in a few minutes here. So that, forgive me if I misfire or don't understand it very well, but let's make an attempt to understand. So Dharma speaks of dependent co-arising, the truth that nothing exists in isolation. Ubuntu echoes a person is a person through other people. Dharma reminds us, clinging to hatred multiplies suffering. Ubuntu concurs. Forgiveness is discipline, is a discipline of compassion, not a weakness. Dharma frames forgiveness as an ongoing practice, cultivated daily like meditation. Ubuntu too sees forgiveness as process, not event, required sustained courage. So in both Dharma and Ubuntu, forgiveness is not sentimental, but transformative. Not just for the violator, but also for yourself. So it's freedom. It's an attempt to free yourself from the gaze of the other who has perpetually violated you. So the metaphysical break frees you, so transcending that kind of chain in that sense. So this is, both of them meet in interdependence, compassion, and practice. Each tradition echoing the other across continents, across histories, across faiths. History within histories, tradition within tradition, culture within cultures. And here is very, very important for philosophers, interesting. So Ubuntu and Dharma here possesses what philosophers call becomes a kind of virtue morality. Now, different. There are two different questions when you ask, what can I do to be a moral agent? is different from how do I become a moral agent? Now, these are two different questions. The first one says, checklist, what should I do? Go to school, do this, obey the traffic light, what to do. This is the rule-based ethics. Now, what Ubuntu and Dharma have in common is what I call this kind of virtue morality. How do I become a moral agent, a good human being who is right all the time, as opposed to what to do? So instead of saying, what should I do, how do I become? So that sometimes, don't do this anyway, if traffic light is red, and you are in Germany, you can cross. Because if you're Germans, the kind of obsessive, bureaucratic dictatorship of German institution that they will give you for ticket for crossing for if you walk past whatever, for walking. But Ubuntu says, well, sometimes it's okay to be a virtuous agent. So that how do I become is superior to what should I do. So you see, that are two different kind of questions. So the idea that we're never, ever going to be subjects or enslaved to the rule. So this information... Okay, I'm told I have 10 minutes. Talk about the vision anchor. So I'm going to talk about the vision anchor, the future, looking to the future. I'm going to summarize this self, future. I'm going to talk about this. Ubuntu, the self is never solitary. But here is the reason for Ubuntu, what I call epistemic empathy. Recognizing that we are never, ever, not imperfect, but the idea of imperfectibility, not imperfection. They're two different things. Imperfectibility suggests that we are never, ever going to be perfect. And the purpose of life is striving to be better, to become, to improve, to be human. Imperfectibility. The perfect man is a dead man. Only when you are dead, you become perfect. The same with knowledge, that we are all, imperfectibility becomes the condition to say, well, I recognize this thing, error, whatever, but imperfectibility gives us the mindset to always be striving. That's why forgiveness always looks forward in that sense. All right, I'm going to rush through because how do we transcend? Okay, I've tried to make some comparison. Okay, I think they're going to share these slides. For those who are interested, I'm sure they will share the slides to students eventually. Now, Ubuntu transcends certain boundary. Why I have made some comparison, in fairness, I also want to show that Ubuntu in different ways differ from Dharma. So beyond Western justice, which asks what punishment feeds the crime, Ubuntu asks, how do we restore relationship and community, the present, the past, and the future. Now, the idea of history here is important. It's not just chronology of events, but the past is the present, the past, and the future. That kind of a holistic entrepreneurial sense that way, through the philosophy of remembership, okay? And then beyond Eastern detachment, Dharma, we ask, how do I transcend suffering? That is, we're talking about how do I transcend suffering? Ubuntu insists, how do we live together through suffering and toward renewed humanity? So forgiveness here is a kind of, not just renewed humanity, but also a kind of witness. To forgive is to bear witness to the world. It is not weak. It's not denial of justice. Forgiveness is the most courageous form of freedom. I call it now forgiveness as radical freedom. I'm moving forward. Okay, thank God it's finished. Okay, so as a kind of a radical freedom, to forgive is to insist that cruelty will not have the final word. Forgiveness is the most courageous form of freedom. To forgive is to say we become human together, or not at all. Just a short story. When I was in Pretoria, during my master's degree at University of Pretoria, I was selling ice cream, a bus boy. So it was heat in Centurion, South Africa, very hot. And I was selling ice cream, first come, first serve. It's a kind of white-dominated community. And one big guy came to me, just coming from, I said, sorry, sir, can you go to the back? He said, no, who are you? You're black N-word or whatever. He said, don't say that. He slapped me. I mean, that's one of those residues of apartheid. I didn't know what to do. I heard myself muttering, I forgive you, God bless you. Now, I was shocked at myself for saying, I forgive you, God bless you. But the moment I said, I forgive you, he even got angry. He became more violent. Now, later on, I was reflecting, why did he get angry when I said, I forgive you? My suggestion was that you take the power away from him. You take away the power of anger from him that, okay, so that's your opinion. You say, I'm stupid or whatever. You call me N-word. Okay, good for you. And then you see, take what I call subjective conversion of experience. This is my own term, subjective conversion. Now, I converted the power back to him. Those who do karate, Shotokan karate. We say, no, Shotokan karate, you throw back. It's not about being strong or whatever. In karate, you take away, you're just taking the energy, converting the energy back to the person. So that's literally, throw the power back at him. He got angry because I couldn't get hurt. I wasn't angry. And it kind of backfired. That was subjective conversion. So here, my friends, we may live here with renewed courage. That's my own. I'm trying to be a little bit contemplative. To the degree I've succeeded, I don't know. It's to practice forgiveness, not as indulgence, but as a kind of what I call radical freedom. That's a radical freedom from that kind of it is being invented at the gaze of the other. So they said, this, you're stupid, you're group, you're stupid, you're this, you're scam, whatever. You get angry, oh, I'm not stupid. How dare you, I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. Now pay attention. You are a residual subject. The guy has made a claim. You are responding. You are a footnote to whatever he says. How dare you say I'm stupid? Oh, you're riling up. Because you are invented at the gaze of the other. He dictated the course of conversation, he described it, and you are just sucking it up that way. So you are a footnote. You are his product. You are his product. So, but Ubuntu says, think of it a different way. Transcend. Don't be a footnote, though. That kind of thing. In Ubuntu and Dharma, then, forgiveness is discipline, it is hope. It is the stitching back of the torn fabric of human being. And so I ask, what wounds might we need to restitch in our community? What relationship should we restore? What acts of forgiveness will free us? What kind of forgiveness should free us? Not just ourselves, but perhaps our shared world. Not just human beings, plants, animals, trees, the cosmology. And again, with my ancestors, I say, Umuntu ngumuntu gabantu. Moto ke bato ke bato. A person is a person through other people.
So I think at this point we want to bring our panelists forward. So we'll just a quick little shuffle here. We're going to ask all of our speakers to come forward who are going to carry the conversation forward. And also just start thinking about questions for the panelists as well. Vina, how do you imagine this with our...
3-4 minutes to each Babajan, Dr. Tony, and then students.
Okay, so Avina's suggestion, I think what we would like to invite is Bawa Jane and Francis Clooney to offer some remarks in response. Yeah.
Some students will come so they can prepare.
And I believe these microphones are, half the buttons the other. To turn them on. Music until we turn them on. Hello, this one working?
Hello. So you have to really kiss the phone, almost.
Yeah.
Not really. So
And there's
just
another
close.
microphone there.
Start singing, kissing.
You go?
Please.
Okay. I'd like to begin by thanking our three panelists for their beautiful presentations, very powerful. Articulate, and the sad thing is that each of you deserved an hour to put your ideas out, so it's been very impressive. But I was thinking about the things you were saying, and I'm really just coming to one question I'll throw at the three of you, is that we have these insights and ideals, the Sthita Prajna from the Bhagavad Gita, Ralph Fertig's powerful example of standing up to injustice, the Guru Nanak's understanding of the beauty, and then putting it into the beautiful words of the Grunt. And then the Ubuntu wisdom, which you showed us in so many ways, Michael. I mean, there are all these interconnections and things that can radically change the world. The question I have is, when does it become activated? How is it that we all, in some way, in many cultures, know these things. We know about beauty. We know about interconnectedness. We see in the media in the old days, or we see it constantly now, the injustice. And yet only a few people stand up and change. How does chapter 2 of the Gita, in a sense, open into chapter 3 in the Karma Yoga? How is it that so many people see the beauty and very few articulate it in a powerful way? How do we take the wisdom of a particular culture, like Ubuntuism, and then say, but this is for all of us, and somebody becomes persuasive? So I'm really concerned about that. Given the urgent needs, the house is on fire, the world is in trouble, so few of us actually do something to change things. How do you go from being the person who sort of knows about, thinks about, doesn't really do anything, to being the person who says, right now, I'm going to start changing things. I will no longer be as I were. From now on, the rest of my life is different. How does that happen for a teacher, for a lawyer, an activist, for a wise man or woman in a village? How does it come about?
And thank you for your remark. We would like also to invite Baba Jane to offer remark.
I think let them respond to that particular question because it's so.
No, you say it, then we're all together discussion because you
Whatever you are, I follow orders. Simple as that. May I stand? I'm just sitting and I want to see the panelists. I'll just take here so I don't have to kiss the mic. I think
Almost kiss,
there are
not
better things to kiss, you know. Sorry. But I think this morning has been quite a performance. Won't you agree? They deserve a little applause for that. Three distinct styles, right? This is just a microcosm of what the world is today. But I want to ask you all here, how you are feeling in the current context of what is happening in our country here, on the campuses here today. I spoke about this a little bit yesterday, but forgive me for not getting into the three speakers, but asking you all, what is your own sentiment and mood right now? Anybody, just say something if you feel.
Disappointed.
Very disappointed.
Very disappointed. I don't know what we can do. But really, really upset and down that what America is doing, the beacon of the world.
The students, I want you all to speak. Your voice matters. Each one of you. Have the courage, get up, speak.
I feel peace. I haven't been, I've completely closed my eyes to the news, completely.
So you become blind.
Well, no, because I don't see the utility in it for my own life. You know, just I think we spend way too much time. You know, we can't make any changes as an individual, and I just find so much peace just completely shutting everything off. You know, just.
Okay, that's one model. Yes, please.
I am quite tired. There's a lot of news, not just in America. There are international news. I'm an international student. Things back home, things back in Myanmar are horrible, to say the least.
Yeah.
There is a civil war. You know, we did try to make things peaceful. We did peaceful protests, civil rights, civil disobedience movements, but the junta's answer to that is bullets in the face.
That's very deep.
I came here to escape, but out of the fire into the frying pan.
It's very deep, very deep. Yes.
I feel scared and disappointed with everything going on. I feel like there's a lot of talk about what we should be doing, things that we could be doing, but I feel like there's not enough action in what we are doing. We're just sort of talking about what we could do, what we should be doing, how to make things better, but we're not actually following through with what we are saying.
Yes.
I feel scared but also frustrated with the news of ICE, and then also the fact that the government had shut down because they couldn't come to an agreement about Medicare, and about all the violence that's happening in the world. It makes me scared but also frustrated that we can't all just come together.
Who else? Who else?
Can we direct this back to our panelists? I mean, I think
Okay.
this is
No,
really good.
I asked you this for a specific reason. What if I am going to tell you that you are living in an extraordinary time? What do I mean by that? The measure of your character is when you fall down and you have the ability to rise again. Extraordinary leaders manifest during times of adversity and difficulty. Each one of you today has to be a leader. You cannot wait for anybody else. How many people here, just a show of hands, citizens of the United States of America? A fair amount, right? What is the most important thing that you do when you become a citizen? The Pledge of Allegiance? To uphold democracy? Right? Is that being trumped by the Pledge of Loyalty today? What are you going to do about it? We can talk all we want. We can go home to keep talking till the cows go home. But today we need action.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it links to what the question he was asking before about the action, the question Father Clooney asked. And I want to jump in at this point in time here. In that kind of, the question is, you talk about Ubuntu philosophy, you talk about all those ideas. I speak from my own historical background and experience. And what I'm trying to suggest is, when I speak the idea that your dignity is not up for negotiation. That is not an option. But then there's a phrase I made up when I gave a keynote in Belgium last year at the KUL. I said, go drink coffee with someone you do not like. Go drink coffee with someone you do not like. And what happens is that when you drink coffee with someone you don't like, you see that you disrupt the strangeness. You disrupt the simplifications, the masking that is always a reason, the differentiating order of otherness that's always a reason for violence, for anger, and for hate. So yes, we can do it, calling the other person to the table to have coffee. Sometimes there is a hermeneutic space for silence. You don't necessarily need to talk to the other. Bring them to the table for coffee. Not that you have to talk. Bring the Democrats, bring the Republicans. Let's have coffee. Don't do anything. So yes, it's been happening. It happened in South Africa. I am a student of Desmond Tutu. He sent me to Cambridge for my second PhD. So I am from that tradition. I'm not speaking from nowhere. And we see that in South African Constitution. It was there in the preamble South African Constitution. We see that South Africa was the first country to abolish death penalty. Is one of the most liberal constitution in the world. The Freedom Charter, the land belongs to everybody, even spirit belongs to you. So you see that this is actually practiced on the basis of Ubuntu. So yes, we can have that. What we lack is moral courage. Everybody's protecting their paycheck. That's what it is.
Chris or Nikki, would you like to respond?
I just want to, there was a question there, back there, when they said, I don't want to see what's going on right now. Actually, that reminded me of Mahatma Gandhi, his 3 monkeys, see no evil, remember that? Hear no evil, speak no evil. So in a way, what we have to do is hear things that are good. But I think the hearing begins within ourselves. Before we go outward, before we do anything, we really have to feel that peace, sahaj, harmony within ourselves. And I think there's just so much, internets and multimedia. And I'm really with you. There's just so much social, Skypes and whatnot. I can't keep up with that because I don't do that. And it just takes away so much of the energy. We really are not human beings anymore. We are extensions. Like what's a phone? Phone is your body. If you don't have your phone, you're lost. So instead of that, I would really say something to kind of recognize who we are, our selfhood, our humanity, and everything begins here within ourselves. And that's what Lao Tzu says, that's what Guru Nanak says. Something, give yourself silence. We all, myself included, to give ourselves some space and time and really retrieve within yourself and see what we can do. So it leaves the question for each of us.
I want to invoke Eleanor Roosevelt and the UN Declaration of Human Rights and lift up the Ubuntu term of dignity and lift up the Gandhian term of, and the Bhagavad Gita term of Swaraj, that we need to understand ourselves, we need to build what we need to thrive, not just survive. And as part of that comes that Ubuntu recognition that we are inseparable from one another. And I say that, yes, as kumbaya, because we need more of that. We need more remembrance of that place of connection, that place literally of yoga. And I hear you, the fool on the hill sits, wants that world to disappear, and then at one point you have to wake up from that dream, and there will be work to be done.
Can I invite questions from students or audience members for a moment? No, let me bring you the microphone.
I do apologize for bringing up politics earlier, but I felt, I had to. My name is Paris Contreras. I am a student in Dr. Vina Howard's class, Philosophy 135, and I have a question that focuses on the speaker, Dr. Michael, yes, easy. Do you believe there is a limit to forgiveness? In particular, should we forgive those who will continue to spew hatred? Correct me if I'm wrong, but shouldn't we not bring attention to the fact our perpetrators or evildoers are upset by our forgiveness?
Michael or anyone else could address this as well.
Thank you. This is a very contemplative question. It's something I've struggled. I'm going to make a kind of a confession, not to father, but general confession. I work on Ubuntu philosophy. My first PhD was on Ubuntu. My second PhD was on Ubuntu. I wrote on Ubuntu everywhere. Sometimes I ask myself, am I writing Ubuntu so that as a minority, as a black scholar, that I can be accepted, that I'm making a case for myself subconsciously, that if I were, let me use subjunctive, if I were white, male, whatever, would I care to write an Ubuntu? That makes sense. You see the thing here. Am I writing because when people get accepted, then I'll benefit from that. I'll benefit. You get to learn about John Rawls eventually in Theory of Justice, about their original position. But the question is, am I writing because I want to be accepted? I said, maybe not. Well, I'm Catholic. I'm South African. I am a Nigerian. I'm all over. I was a Jesuit, so I was a missionary. I see a lot of things, so many things, different traditions. Ignatian spirituality informs my own thinking on the idea of plus sign. Give everybody else the most positive interpretation, the best interpretation you can give them. Quine, after you read about Quine, also speaks about positive interpretation. So the thing is, forgiveness in Christian tradition is unlimited. In Islamic tradition is also unlimited. In different traditions, it's unlimited. It's not about the order. The forgiveness is not necessarily about the order. It's about myself too. It's about freedom from being perpetually what I call being invented at the gates of the order. That chain, because what does it do when you are angry, when you are a footnote? No matter what the situation is, you can choose to transcend. And so, yes,
There's no limit to forgiveness, no matter how bad it is. Their dignity, even let me push it a little bit further. Even the dignity of the person who's traumatizing you every day, their dignity is not up for negotiation. When you give up on them, you have lost your dignity. You've lost your own humanity. When you give up on their dignity, that moment you give up on their dignity, you've lost your own humanity.
I just remembered something because you asked about forgiveness. One of the profound moments, I was at the canonization of Mother Teresa at the Vatican, and they screened a movie in which Mother speaks about the importance of forgiveness. She went on for a long time till everybody was convinced that yes, forgiveness is important. And then she says this, but you really have not forgiven if you have not forgotten. So you don't use the word forgiveness easily. So you're saying, can you have the ability to forget what you have forgiven? Then it is you have truly forgiven.
I can't help adding from one of my favorite novels, The Brothers Karamazov, The Teaching of the Elders, Asima, teaches Alyosha, and then it comes alive for Alyosha. Everything, you have to forgive everything that ever has lived. You have to forgive the birds, you have to forgive the trees, the stars, for anything that you've done that is unacceptable. And that forgiveness then flows back to you. And it's kind of an infinite forgiveness that is not simply an act of the will 7 times or 7 times 70 times, as the Bible says, but rather it goes on because everything is connected in this web of forgiveness. And I suppose another way of saying that, and then I'll stop, is that we can forgive, as again the gospel says, if you realize how much you have been forgiven from the moment you were conceived and born, you would realize that the gift of letting it go back is really, it flows through you and then it goes back. But that we ourselves are forgiven beings, which enables us to be forgivers.
Nikki, I wonder, do you have a comment about the role of art in all of this? I mean, just circling back to your talk, and then Chris also, if there's a thought about forgiveness in the American Civil Rights Movement that you kind of told us about, just invite you.
I just want to say, my whole theme is love. Jin prem kiyo tin hi prapayo. It's love, and that, of course, it's forgiveness. You don't hold anything against anybody. Yesterday, when you were giving a talk on Jainism, who's Mahavir Jaina, who has conquered the 5 evils, and that's exactly what Guru Nanak says. You know, there's everybody. There's no sin that we inherited. These are our problems. Kind of anger, arrogance, pride, attachment. There are 5 of them. They are the thieves, and they kind of steal our basic selfhood. Our basic selfhood is divine. It's infinite. It's united. It's unicity. It's that oneness that we all share. But this greed, ego, me, I, that takes a lot out. And that's kind of the divisiveness. So I would say, you know, to get rid of all that and have love, and it's something that's inculcated. And to me, art is a way, looking at workers' art, listening to music, and that kind of helps us regain our humanity.
Yeah, I remember I got lost in the fields one time. And I grew up in a rural part of New York State even, that still had remnants of slavery. And every year in April, the labor buses would come up and our neighbors would live with only latrines for sanitation. Essentially, the kids had very little schooling. And we lived in the shadow of people that labored in the fields, planting the tomatoes, harvesting the tomatoes. And one day I was out searching for my siblings who were out in the woods somewhere. And I was just frustrated. And one of these black field workers just said, "Honey, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And just the capacity of her heart to see this little white boy frustrated and to just simply calm me down, just provided a model for me to let it be, to find little ways to dwell within that sthita prajna, where it really isn't that big a thing, and to bring that into the presence of people that are upset can help calm them down, but also, as our brother said, it can really make people mad. So, and we need to forgive them for that too.
I am looking at our clock, and I know that there is lunch, and students probably have classes and whatnot. I'm going to invite our panelists, if we could just go down the line as we conclude, if you could each give us, our students especially, a text, an author, a work of art that they should go look up on their way home, and then we'll conclude.
Okay, to dwell in gratitude and look at the last 18 verses of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Read everything.
I would say imagine John Lennon's song. World without borders.
No, for me, most important is, I think one of the most important qualities of a human being is their ability to learn something new every day. Especially make yourself open and vulnerable and uncomfortable. Deal with it. Grow with it. I can recommend many books of it, but one thing I'll say in terms of the interfaith, and that Dr. Veena Howard had mentioned, is I just say this, interfaith engagement really has lived its course. When it comes to the question of God, every theology, every scripture has their own path, and I'd advise you not to get into a discussion about that, because each one is right, there's the correct one. Study the scriptures, study the other, know the key observances of the other people. That way you'll build mutual respect. And through that understanding, through that trust, that is what we are lacking today here. But right now, rise, rise, and rise. Do something.
And I would go back to the brothers Karamazov. Many of you have read it. Alyosha, the young man, the youngest of the brothers, about your age, most of you, how in the middle of the brothers Karamazov, you could read the whole thing, but it's very long. He has two voices. One is his brother Ivan, and Ivan, the rebellion, the Grand Inquisitor, the rejection of evil and having nothing to do with God anymore. And on the other hand, Zosima saying, if you forgive everything and love everything and water the ground with your tears, you can be a different person. So if you read those sections, I found it inspirational like for 60 years now, so give it a try.
Thank you very much to our panelists.